idea of this discussion is about the relationship between what is free and what is open. And there are some seats over there. So yeah, people come in and hover, try and get them to have a seat in the circle while they're sitting on the outside. I'm doing research which compares socially engaged art practice and new media art activism. And so I'm interested in social facilitation structures as well as new media facilitation structures. And there's something kind of ironic about the free software and open source software movement and sort of reinventing ideas of freedom, reinventing consensus decision making or collaborative models, which of course have existed for a very long time. So, do people know about the free versus open debate in terms of software? Is that something people are familiar with or not? No. No. Any definite yeses, definite no's? Yes. Definite no's? So everyone knows about it. Everyone knows kind of Richard Stallman's position and the conflict between the idea of free software and open software. Yeah?
Should we just recap it?
Okay. So you have to say no, because I didn't know anything about it. Doing a PhD in this and being invited to chair a discussion, I thought, well, I better quickly do some homework, because it's really, really dull. You know, you don't really read this unless you really have to, unless you're absolutely working with particular tools and sets of ethics and principles within your practice. And if you are, it'll be common knowledge, but if you're not, to be honest, most people don't come across it in their daily lives. But open source is, Stallman argues, open source software is sometimes free but not always free in terms of its ethics. And it sells itself to others on the basis of efficiency, that it's actually a better, more efficient model of development and model of software, rather than a kind of human right of freedom. So that's roughly the distinction. So one can be seen to be kind of pragmatic and efficient, and the other can be seen to be utopian, although they can both be both of those things, and sometimes neither, really. So I was going to mention my project, which I'm doing at the moment, which is called Open Source Embroidery, and it's a project that I'll be developing with Access Space in Sheffield in July. And the idea of open source embroidery was to develop a kind of comfort zone for learning across different crafts of programming and crafts of embroidery and knitting. And at its extreme, it's a collaboration between the WI, or the Stitch and Bitch group, and the Linux users group. At the moment, I'm working on a much more sort of middle ground of people who do both programming and crafts, and people are beginning to make lots of different projects that are coming out of sort of sitting around and drinking tea and chatting and sharing ideas and sharing ethics as much as practice. It did occur to me that trying to discuss the kind of ethics and rights of software might be more interesting over embroidery rather than shouting at a computer, as we were talking earlier about swearing at computers. So, I'm not going to say much more, other than those issues throw up a whole load of questions which you'll also have in your mind about, well, you know, how is what we do free, how is what we do open, does it matter, do we care? Are we trying to be sort of hardline, utopian, principled, and use software or use tools which completely fit within an ethical free software framework, or are we just trying to get things done and we'll use what's best, what's fit for purpose, what helps us to do the work we want to do within the best ethical framework that we can, which most people sort of in the middle ground work in that way. So we've got people here today who do very, very different kinds of creative practice, but we're not just talking about creative practice and cultural practice, we're talking about work and the nature of work and the nature of economic exchange and value. And I think everybody in this group approaches that in quite a different way. Obviously, artists and programmers have developed a whole range of different strategies for approaching the ethics of work and how do you value the aesthetic, how do you value process as opposed to project. And I think free software and open source gives us a completely different model of understanding the development process of creativity, of ideas, rather than the emphasis on the product, which might be good in some situations and absolutely disastrous in others. So really it's something that I'm interested to see how that's reflected on this afternoon.
I'm Jim Previtt from Access Space, and we're hosting this event, so we're inviting everybody. I'd just like to say that if you want to shout up and say anything at any point, but be really great if you can just say who you are and where you came from. So we've got a bit of an idea of who you are. Okay, that's about it. Where you came from. Yeah, and where you came.
Hi. So I've just finished doing a month of free work. I've run quite a few workshops about money, people's relationships with money. After having attended one myself about 2 years ago, and at some point about a month and a half ago, the idea of doing a month of free work kind of hit me when I'd spent 3 days cold calling companies, asking whether they wanted any copywriting work done so I could pay my rent. And I didn't really want to do copywriting work because I did lots of other things apart from that, and they didn't know who I was, and it felt like a very inefficient use of 3 days, just trying to sell people things they didn't necessarily want, that I didn't want to sell, and so on and so on and so on. And I was thinking about unemployed people, where you're told to kind of go and look for work, and the idea is that you have to look for work, and then when you found it, you're out to start working. As soon as someone's signed a contract with you and they're giving you money, then you can start working. And I was thinking that was quite an inefficient way of doing things as well. So I thought, if I want to find work, like paid work, sustainable work, maybe the best way of doing it is just starting to work. And I googled free work as a term, and it's like nothing. It barely exists as a concept.
Yeah. Free porn is another one.
Free porn, lots of free porn, but less free work. And so it's quite a good brand, because free software people are used to, but the idea of doing work for free is like almost heretical, because work and money are so kind of closely related. And so I thought I kind of knew that work and money didn't have to be, so they're not the same thing. That time isn't money, that it's not always the best way of kind of getting the most value out of something going via money. And it felt like if you can ring someone up and say, well, I'm going to do work for you for free, then you've really got something to offer. And if they can get their heads around the idea that you're not trying to con them, then interesting things kind of start to happen. I don't want to go on, but...
So what did you do as your free work?
What kinds of work?
You're free to film.
Well, there's a friend of mine who wants me to clean his house, which I haven't done yet, but I will do. Basically, although I said I'm going to work for free, I was very, very careful about valuing my time, even if I wasn't valuing what money came in before I started the work. So I said to everyone, for 1 month, from this day to this day, if you want half a day's free work done, I'll do half a day of work for you. And so I edited a book for someone, I developed a marketing strategy for a company, I helped set up a networking group for an entrepreneurial agency in London, ran some workshops, bits and pieces, lots of stuff. And since then I've had like a job offer. I'm working with someone where I'm splitting 50-50 on the profits from an event as a result of the free work. and I've got a suspicion that it's actually sustainable.